everyone, welcome. I am your host, Rae Irelan, and you're listening to the Soul Aligned podcast, where we help high achieving leaders and driven visionaries do what you love and live your purpose. And I'm so excited. Welcome to episode number 11, and we're diving into how to build an online community today. So I'm so excited to bring on this amazing, incredible woman who was my first coach, my first mentor, who really, shook my whole world upside down. And I'm so grateful for it. And she has just created an amazing online community. So this is Tanya Lynn I'm speaking of, and she is the founder of Sistership Circle, a worldwide sisterhood movement, empowering women all around the world to step into their true beauty, brilliance, and boldness as feminine leaders, and to really do it together. And Tanya is also the author of Open Your Heart, How to Be a New Generation Feminine Leader, and How to Lead Circle. So this woman is a powerhouse. So excited to have you on. Thanks for joining.
Oh, I'm so excited. One of my favorite topics is talking about building communities. So yes, whether they're local or virtual, but it's all, same principles essentially. So yeah, I'm excited to dig in. I just get to go gangbusters on this topic with you.
Absolutely. So I would love to just start with hearing about, what is this big vision that you have for what you see happening with Sistership Circle, both to tell our audience, more about what you're doing, but also to kind of give them some insight into the mind of a creator, the mind of someone that's really wanting to grow a global online community. What does that feel like? What does that dream look like?
Well, I've always been a community builder ever since I was a little girl. And I actually grew up with my parents would host big, large gatherings at our home, every single holiday. There were 1 million people at my house. So I just always grew up in a community-based environment. And so it's always just been who I am. And so when I was living in New York, I came back to San Diego, my hometown, and I said, I really need to create community. So I started putting on these events. And then they kind of morphed into these circles, and something clicked. And I was like, there's something here. And what I didn't know at the time, but it was like it sparked this healing journey for me. And through that healing journey, I got to experience on an even deeper level why Circle was so important, because of the connection that we have with ourselves, with a power higher than ourselves, and with each other. And I feel like this is a thing that everyone wants, or they don't really know that they want it, but it's like, we've all gone to social media to find connection, but really what it is that what we're looking for is Circle. We're looking for the connection that happens in Circle. So I believe that Circle is really the thing that that's going to change the planet. And Jean Shinoda Bolen, who is one of the women, the pioneers in the Circle movement, she says that the opposite of patriarchy is not matriarchy, it's Circle. And when we have 1 million circles on the planet, this is the tipping point. This is when we will hit critical mass. This is really the divine feminine rising that everyone talks about. This is what's going to create the new paradigm on the planet. And so I've made it my personal mission to build community, to build a team to actually fulfill on that 1 million circles on the planet. And so, I feel very passionate about this because of the difference it's made for my own life. And I think that's one of the things as a creator, where is it sourced from? Is that passion, where is that coming from? From your own transformation is typically the place that's really going to drive it. So I'm naturally a very driven person, but I'm very passionate about knowing that this is my soul purpose, and knowing that this is the thing that's made me who I am today. So I want that for every woman. And I want every woman to see the power that she holds and the power that we have as a collective when we're in sisterhood.
I love that. It's such a powerful vision, and it's so easy to feel the desire to get involved, you know, when you hear about like that tipping point. It's so real, and I think we all are really like desperate in wanting it. And there's something that you said, you know, not everyone knows that circle or this community is like really what they're desiring. And I want to kind of go a little bit deeper into that, because I think that's an interesting thing, is like, what would be some of those pieces that someone would be experiencing that would maybe be signs that, hey, you might be actually just looking for a community, like the community might be an answer for you.
So wait, so clarify this question. So you're looking for community if
what, like, what are you experiencing in your life if you're
gotcha.
Or even wanting to build community?
You're wanting connection. I mean, that's number one, right? You're wanting connection. You feel like perhaps you're doing it alone. You feel separate. You feel isolated. I think this is a big tragedy of our current society, and how we've kind of gotten into all the way that we live is so, you know, we're living alone. We look at places like India where everyone's still living together. You're with your in-laws, you're with your parents, you're with, like, there's like massive amount of people like all living together, but we've gotten away from that family dynamic here, especially in America, right? It's like we're so, and then in Southern California, we got to drive everywhere, like so easy to just not be in connection with people. So we're deeply desiring that community when we're wanting those things. And also there's this piece of like, I don't want to do it alone, right? Like I want to be part of something greater than myself. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that women say when they come to Sistership Circle, is they want to be part of that movement of the mission that's bigger than themselves. Because it's much more fulfilling when we're doing things in partnership, when we're doing things together. It's one reason why we want a life partner, so we don't have to do life alone, right? So having a life partner and having community and having family, like that is the heartbeat. Right? Like that's what brings us joy and happiness and keeps us alive. When we're alone, we feel lonely. Like, is life worth living? No, we need community. And they even say in the blue zones, right? These blue zones where people live the longest, community is a huge factor of that. If we want to live longer, we want to have fulfilling, happy lives, we need community. We need that connection.
Absolutely. Would you say that's one of like your favorite parts of building an online community is that connection? And also just kind of as someone that's leading it, you know, not someone that's just like joining an online community, but someone that's like charging and making the way. What's your favorite part about being in that role?
And my favorite part is knowing women online and then meeting them in person.
Oh, I love that.
And that first, it's like the hugs and and I love, people always say to me, Tanya, you're so much shorter than I thought. Because I have a big presence, right? And I would, you know, I get this all the time because I'm very short. And so it's like I have these women towering over me, and they always poke fun at, you know, oh, you're so much shorter. But it's just so much fun when we actually get to be in the flesh. And there's so many women who, you know, have been online in our community forever, and then finally they come to our annual live event and we get to, you know, hang out in the same room. It's incredible. Not just hang out, we get to transform our lives together, right?
Yeah.
We get to really dig in and go deep together. So you know, it's having fun and going deep together. And that, yeah, that's what I love. And I've always been someone who loves to travel. I've been to, I think, like 30 countries now. I love the world. So for me, the online community piece of having friends in Australia, having friends in, you know, in Europe and Africa is just so amazing. It just blows my mind when we have a call at like 12 o'clock and there's women from all over the world in the morning and the night, you know, and there's just something really powerful about how we're closing the gap and we're creating this global community.
Totally.
I think you share that interest too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's almost this like mind blowing thing. And really it's technology. It's like, wow, we have the technology to be able to connect with almost anyone around the world, and being able to build something online, build that community, is like the first step to being able to meet the people in person. And yeah, I think that that last step of like, you know, when you get to embrace someone that you know but you haven't actually been able to be face to face with, like that is just so powerful. It really is so cool. And I think part of this podcast is I want to inspire anyone, you know, that is interested in building their own online community, and just inspiring them, you know, first with like just Soul Line, because we've been able to have guests on it from all over the world, and then like bringing in a powerful leader like you who's been creating this vision for many years, you know, and it's built up and you are living it. So it really is exciting. So one thing I was going to kind of ask, and I was going to wait till later, but I think this would be a good time. Like, are there some specific tools that you use to build the online community? Obviously, like, thank goodness we have technology, but yeah, are there ones that you feel like, wow, if this weren't here, I wouldn't be able to do this?
Technology wise,
Open. Like, are you able to connect and like create community online? A lot of people like
yeah.
it doesn't make sense. It's like, well, if it's online, it's not, is that really a community? Like, how do you?
So yeah, the key is video conferencing. That's what it all comes down to. You know, I mean, it's even more than just like a Facebook group, or, you know, it's when we actually get to interact. And, you know, we use Zoom. I think that's the most popular one out there right now, because you can have a lot of women. But the video conferencing, where we could get on a call and we could all interact and we can see each other and hear each other, is so powerful. That is what creates community online. And, you know, women are skeptical, and then they come on and are like, wow, it's almost as if we're in the room together. Not quite, but it's very close, right? And so we can actually develop these relationships, and that is the key. If you're building an online community, it's all about the relationships. So what are the tools to build relationship with other people? So it's, you know, what's the technology is Zoom, and having those calls where we get to interact. And then how do we engage with each other? Like, how do we create engagement? And that is really, I think, critical of what are the structures so that we can be engaging with one another. Because what I found is, you know, like a membership, for example, a lot of memberships, people come and it's just content consumption. You come and you get your stuff and then you leave. And so how do you actually get women to be interacting, engaging with each other? And that's where it's like, well, you've got to have the structure for them to come onto the call. And how do you provide the value that women see the value of coming onto that call, right? Versus just watching the recording. Well, it's like, hey, no one shows up on the call, there's no recording. So what are the structures, and how do you incentivize people to actually be engaged, you know, and interact? Otherwise, it's not a community. Mm-hmm. Anyone can do a membership, but can anyone create a community? Well, the community is built on relationships.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you're such a visionary that this question just came into my mind. I'm like, what do you see happening in the future, you know, for online communities? Like, you know, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, like this maybe wouldn't have been possible to reach these sort of connections all around the world. What do you think is going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years?
Well, this would actually be more of a question for my husband, Brent. And Brent says that the next level of virtual community will be the actual, what's it called? The AI, and the virtual reality, essentially, VR, sorry. So virtual reality where, you know, I'm me, and then everyone else is actually in the circle Like, and so we feel like we're actually in that circle together, and it looks real, and it looks like we're all in that space together. I think that's the future. And he talks about this, so I'm stealing it from him.
Oh my gosh, how cool. I love it. It's definitely right around the corner, and probably sooner than we know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
What has been, I'm sure that and I know that there have been many challenges while creating this sort of bigger vision, global online community. And, I'm super blessed because I've been working with Sistership Circle and a part of the team, and really one of the facilitators, and I get to experience kind of the ins and outs of what this looks like. And I would love to just hear from you, like, what are some of the things that help you move forward and continue when things get hard and things like aren't working? Obviously, there's so many people involved, there's so many relationships. What are some tools that you use to move through that?
Oh, yeah, because we've definitely, I mean, one thing is you have to be able to respond and evolve. And this is something that people say that I'm really good at, is that I'm constantly responding to the needs in the space. I'm constantly looking at what needs to be put in place. You have to be checking in, right? You need to be receiving feedback. You need to be listening to what the people are saying that they need and want, right? And so that listen, the tool of listening is huge, being able to respond and then evolve. So like we look at our online community, we've constantly been evolving our structures and looking at what works and what doesn't work. And, we have to be constantly making adjustments. The other thing is, I think this is for anything. It's like, what's the common purpose? Which is essentially the vision. So women have to keep their eye on the vision and keep being inspired. So it's almost like we have to constantly be enrolling people in why they're in the community and why they want to continue to be in the community. We can't assume that people are always inspired. They're not. They're going to fall off. So how are you continuing to pump in that inspiration and empowering people to stay in the community and presencing the vision, presencing the why? So that's what has me be successful, is that I am so passionate about the vision. I'm so focused on that end goal and the purpose. And I'm constantly looking at enrolling everyone in that, reminding them of that. I think that's the number one.
That's super cool. And I think always just back to that why, back to that vision. It cannot be done enough. It's like,
yeah.
Sometimes I'll find myself in this where I'm like, oh, well, I went through that yesterday. Do I need to do it again today? It's like even moment to moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's how people disengage. They forget why they're there. We have to remind them. So it's not like, oh God, but I just told them this, because that's where we can go as leaders. It's like, oh, I'm having to, herd the cats again. I'm having to pull them. And it's like, yeah, well, and you got to release that. So what's the work that you need to do? What are they reflecting within you as your limited beliefs or your, mindset? So it's always looking at your mindset as well, of like, okay, well, what are they reflecting in me? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And so it's a lot of work. You got to keep doing the work on yourself. Yeah.
Constantly evolving, for sure. It's like being in relationship, with one partner, you have that mirror, and then building online community. Okay, now you have 100 mirrors, maybe 1,000 mirrors.
Yeah, for real.
You gotta be willing. Do you have any advice for someone that is watching that might want to be, starting to build their online community, or maybe just getting it out there bigger? Is there anything you'd say to them?
Survey, check in, ask questions, right? Like, get really curious, get to know the women or the people who are in the community. I think that's really, really important. You don't have to have all the answers. It's a co-creation, and this is how you get buy-in. So start having the conversations, start interviewing, surveying, finding out what they want and what they need. And that's what's then going to have them be involved and engaged.
I love that. And I'm thinking about how that could also relate a lot, probably to your relationships that you have in your inner circle. So I know you're a mom and a wife as well. So what is it like to be following your dreams and, you know, doing all of this work on yourself, having all these different relationships, and, you know, not only building an online community, but a global movement while being a mom and a wife? How are you able to juggle all of them?
It's like I have to create boundaries and be present, right? So it's like when I'm working, I'm working. When I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. I'm trying not to be doing other things. I'm trying not to work when I'm with my kids. Sometimes I have to, but for the most part, I try to be really present. I put my phone somewhere else if I'm with them. I try not to have my phone on me when I'm with my kids. You know, there's times, of course, when I do. And then I have to make sure I'm taking time for myself, which is usually the last thing on the list, is creating that space for myself and filling myself up. And luckily, I have a partner who really is always encouraging that and constantly, you know, making sure that I'm getting my needs met. So I think that's a huge piece, is we have to get our own needs met and can't make it all about work all the time.
Absolutely. Finding that balance. It's like, got a big vision, big dream, get out there, do it, try it, survey, continue to follow that vision, but don't forget about what's here and what really is home. And I think you represent that so well in the family life that you've created and living that out and building that community, your like little tribe, you know, your little family tribe, and then just multiplying it out to the millions and getting all the women involved. So I absolutely love that. Are there any last words that you want to share on how to build an online community for anyone that's listening?
Yeah, just, you know, stay true to yourself. And I think at the end of the day, sometimes we can tend to, you know, I just said surveying and responding to needs and all of that, and not always just getting into people pleasing and seeking approval, right? Because sometimes at the end of the day, you're the leader and you just need to make decisions. And sometimes it could get really squirrely when we're trying to make sure that we're pleasing everyone, but we can't please everyone. And so sometimes, you know, it might work for the majority, and then a couple people, it's not going to work. And it's like, well, maybe they're just not meant to be in this community, and that's okay. So if there's women or people who are leaving your community, don't take it personally and stay true to yourself, and just keep finding that balance between responding to needs and staying in alignment with your truth, so that you are in that, you know, in your full leadership capacity and making decisions in the highest good for all versus just a couple. And that can happen, right? Where a couple people might hijack and they might be creating drama, and then we think that we need to like make them happy. But then it's like, is that really actually taking care of the whole community? So how do we balance the taking care of the individual, that customer service piece, but also like keeping in mind the whole and what's in the highest for all? So I think that's a really critical piece.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you touched upon that. And yeah, just staying true to yourself, keep on tuning in with that inner heart. Well, thank you so much for being on here again. This is Tanya Lynn, founder of Sistership Circle. So grateful to have you on here. Thank you.
Thanks, Rae.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks to everyone that has checked out this video. Please subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't yet. And if you want to check out more videos, you can go ahead and tap the screen. And we will see you next time on Soul Aligned. Bye.